everyone, it's Gardner Heather, and today we are going to do some harvesting in the garden. We have Thanksgiving coming up, it's November, and you might be thinking, how can we use the things we grow in our garden to make some delicious food? Let's go! Does anyone know what's growing here? Yeah, we have some broccoli, and I am going to harvest this broccoli. So what I'm going to do is just take my clippers, because broccoli is really strong, and I am going to clip it. Now I can take home this broccoli and cook it maybe in some hot water. Over here, we have a delicious green plant called mizuna. Mizuna is kind of like a lettuce or a kale. If you want to harvest mizuna, you can use your hands or scissors, and you can just go in and you can pick these delicious green leaves. Over in this bed, we have lots of flavorful plants. Let's go take a look at what we can harvest. Right here, we have a sage plant. Sage is a really delicious herb, and you can take these leaves, chop them up, and cook them with all sorts of things. They're also very healthy for you. If you ever want to harvest some sage, you can just pick leaves like I'm doing right now. Cook these leaves up with some garlic or onions and some other food, and it will be delicious. Over here, we have some chives. Chives taste like onions. You can pick these green, grass-looking like stems, and you can actually chop them up or cut them with scissors and put them on your food. They taste really good on mashed potatoes. Over here, we have another herb called parsley. You can cut it with scissors, or you can just pick the stems, and you can eat this in so many different things. It adds lots of flavor if you're cooking or making salads or all sorts of things. And now that we've harvested in our garden, we get to cook some delicious food with everything that we collected. Let's get started. Now I'm going to use some of these things that I harvested in the garden to make a garden vegetable pie. On this side, I have things that I got from the garden, and on this side, I have vegetables that I got from the grocery store. Here, I'm going to use some sage, I'm going to use some chives, I'm going to use a little broccoli I harvested, and all this parsley. And over here, I'm going to use this garlic, which is actually growing in your garden, but it's not ready yet. And I'm going to use these beautiful squash, and I'm also going to use some white beans. Take a look at this beautiful squash. Let's cut it open and see what it looks like inside. Wow, take a look at that. This squash, you can actually eat the skin of it, the inside, and even the seeds. But for this pie, I want it to be really smooth, so I'm going to scoop out these seeds and I'm going to peel off the skin. So I'm heating up some oil to start making the filling, some olive oil, and I am going to add some garlic, some sage from our garden, and some parsley from our garden. And here I've added some of our broccoli from the garden. And it's all sizzling in the pan. And now I'm going to add some squash. I'm And we're gonna let this cook for a while. Now take a look at the squash right now and see how it looks. And let's see what happens after we have it in a hot pan for several minutes. So now I've added some beans, and look at our squash. It's kind of squishier now. You might notice the color's a little different. Now that the vegetables are cooked, it's time to add some fresh greens and herbs from our garden. So first, I'm gonna add this mizuna. And it looks like a lot of greens right now, but when it cooks down into the vegetables, you'll actually see that it shrinks a lot. So you can put a lot of this in there. And this is really good for you, and it's also tasty. Now that we've mixed our greens in, it's time to add our herbs. So I'm gonna add lots of fresh chives that I cut up. These add like a very light oniony flavor. And I'm also going to add some chopped parsley, which adds a delicious flavor to basically anything that you put it in. And this also looks like a lot of green, but just like our mizuna, it's gonna shrink and it's gonna blend in and taste delicious. For our pie crust, I'm going to add some flour, some salt, some butter, and some vegetable oil. Here's my pie dough. I've mixed everything together, and now I'm gonna start making it into a ball, or a few different balls. Now, we could make one big garden pie, but what I think would be fun is to make a bunch of little pies so that I can make them for everyone in my family. So now I'm gonna split my dough into 2 little balls for my mini pie, and I'm gonna roll it out. So now I have my pie dough all rolled out, and I'm gonna put it in my pan. Press it down in there. Now it's time to put our filling in the crust. Now that we have our delicious vegetable filling in our pie pan, it's time to put on the top crust. So I want to make the top of my pie look kind of pretty, so I am going to do a little woven pattern just for fun. And now our little pie is ready to bake in the oven. And now we're gonna put our little pie in the oven. We're gonna let it bake. What do you think's gonna happen to our pie when it bakes? Will it be the same as when we put it in? I'm curious what your predictions are on this. Now it's time to take our little pie out of the oven. Our little pie from garden vegetables looks delicious. I can't wait to dig in. Here is a little piece of our pie. Let's take a bite. Delicious! Thank you for making garden pie with me. Now, I'm curious, what are some of your favorite foods? And I want you to think, what might farmers need to harvest to make those foods?